Hey everyone, welcome to our channel, the best place for all things sewing. Today we're going to be talking about knit bands or knit bindings. The difference of those are a knit band is what you commonly find in the necklines of t-shirts or, like on this top I'm wearing, in your armhole. And a knit binding is what you'll also find on knit tank tops. What we have here is a store-bought top with knit binding. This wraps around the fabric where a knit band sticks out from the fabric. Before we dive in, go ahead and hit like and subscribe. Okay, so what we have here is I'm preparing for knit binding. So what I've done is I've taken my strip of fabric and I've ironed it in half, and then I've ironed it where one side meets the center. So this is to prepare it. Now, when you want to sew it onto your fabric, this will be the right side of the fabric, and you unfold this so that your folded edge is open. And then this should be about 90% of what you need this to be. Like, this should be shorter by about 90%. So I will cut this off right here, and then I will stretch this to fit. And what you're going to do is you're going to sew along this crease here that you've created. Okay, now I've gone ahead and I've sewn that to my fabric. So for binding, this is going to, you're going to fold this out, and it's going to wrap around the fabric like this. And it should fold at the crease that you created when you ironed it, like this. And then what you want to do is you will want to stitch about 1/8 of an inch from this edge right here. Okay, now I've gone ahead and stitched it, and you want to make sure that you use a stretch stitch on this part. I used a triple stitch, but you can use anything like a double needle or a cover stitch, a zigzag, the lightning bolt stitch. You can use any of those for this stitch. Now what you'll find when you flip it over is that you have excess right here. So then you just take your scissors and you carefully trim that away. Now you also find, I don't know if you'll notice, that it puckers a little bit. Oftentimes, all it really needs is a good press. Okay, now I've gone ahead and pressed it, and it is laying flat. If you find that even after pressing it is still like puckering like it was, or worse, then your band length was too short. Next, we'll be working on a method called clean finish. I've taken my band and I have pressed it in half. So then you take your fabric, lay it flat. This is the right side facing me, and you want to stretch your band to fit. This one, just like the binding, needs to be about 90%. So do that and stitch along the edge. Okay, now I've stitched that on. Now for the clean finish, what it's basically doing is you will trim these edges to reduce bulk. And then you're going to fold it over so that the seam is on the edge. So from the front side, you don't see the clean finish binding. But from the back side, this is where the band is. Now you want to make sure you don't use too thick of fabric, or this is going to create a lot of bulk. You don't want to be stretching your band too much either, otherwise it's going to cause your fabric to pucker. So you fold it over, and then you stitch this in place along the edge, and it'll create a very nice clean finish. I've gone ahead and stitched that so that you can see that your edge is very nice and clean. Now we're going to be talking about traditional bands. I have my piece here, my fabric. For traditional band, you also want your fabric facing towards you, the right side. So if this was a print, this is where you would be seeing, like if this had hearts on it, the hearts would be facing you. And just like the others, you want your band folded in half. Now these you want to be about 85%. That means for the length of this, I want my band to be 85% of it, and then stretch that. And the reason that we want that is because when you're sewing curved areas, like necklines, here we have a neckline. What you want is you want the band to lay flat after you've sewn it. And so your inside curve is actually smaller than this curve. And so you need to be able to have the band to stretch so that it tightens and pulls in to be this curve. If you were to have your band the exact same length as your neckline, your band would be floppy. It needs the stretch to help it lay flat. Take our bands and we'll lay it and we'll stretch it and we will stitch from the edge. Okay, I've gone ahead and I've stitched my band on. So you'll want to take it and fold it out and press. Now, a lot of times for an even nicer finish, you can top stitch on this part, not on the band, but on your main fabric. And then if you also have a little bit of puckering like this, a good press will help it lay flat. Now, some other things I'd like to mention. You want to make sure that when you're sewing on your bands or your binding and you're stretching it to fit, that you're only stretching the band when you sew. You don't want to be stretching all of it. This will definitely cause puckers. The other thing I've mentioned is that I know that cotton lycra is a favorite to sew for a lot of people. I have found with bands and binding that my stretch percentage needs to be increased to 90% for bands and 95% for binding. That is because cotton lycra is often a thicker fabric and has 100% recovery. All right, I hope that was very informative for you guys. If you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the comments below.